Good. Good evening, everyone, special guests. This meeting is being held in accordance with the public laws of 1975, Chapter 231. An adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger, and posted in the main lobby of the municipal building and on the municipal website. OPMA authorizes municipalities to conduct public meetings through use of streaming services and other online meeting platforms. The Red Bank Council is meeting in person as well as providing an option for the public to participate via Zoom video meetings. Please note that the option to attend is being provided as a courtesy. Therefore, if Zoom becomes unavailable during the meeting and it cannot be quickly fixed, Council will continue with the remainder of the meeting. For those joining us via Zoom, please raise your hand during designated times to be recognized for a comment. Whether you are appearing in person or via Zoom, you must provide your name to be recognized. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Laura.
Councilmember Bonatakis. Here. Councilmember Cassidy.
Here.
Councilmember Facey Blackwood. Present. Councilmember Forrest.
Present.
Councilmember Janone.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Triviano.
Here.
And Mayor Portman.
Here.
All present, sir.
Thank you. We have a couple of proclamations. The first one is for Pride Month. Whereas the Borough of Red Bank is a diverse lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ+ community that includes people of many races, ethnicities, religions, and professions. And whereas diversity is a community asset that enhances and enriches the lives of all community members. And whereas the Borough of Red Bank recognizes and honors the history of LGBTQ+ liberation movement and supports the rights of all citizens to experience equality and freedom from discrimination. And whereas the Borough of Red Bank observes Pride Month with a pride flag, the rainbow flag is widely recognized as a symbol of pride, inclusion, and support for social movements that advocate for LGBTQ+ people in society. And whereas the Borough of Red Bank is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ+ people in our community. And whereas while society at large increasingly supports LGBTQ+ equality, it is essential to acknowledge that the need for education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas this nation was founded on the principle that every individual has infinite dignity and worth, and the Borough of Red Bank calls upon its citizens to embrace this principle and work to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists. And whereas celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for the LGBTQ+ community, and is an opportunity to take action and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Red Bank hereby proclaims the month of June 2024 as Pride Month in support of the LGBTQ+ community, recognizing all LGBTQ+ residents whose influential and lasting contributions to our neighborhoods make Red Bank a vibrant community in which to live, work, and visit. And now we have a proclamation in honor of Juneteenth. Whereas our country is made up of people from every nation on earth who are declared equal, not only in freedom, but also in justice, both of which are essential for a healthy human civilization. And whereas our nation was conceived on July 4th, 1776, with the Declaration of Independence, the classic statement being, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas at 2 p.m. on New Year's Day, January 1st, 1863, using his war powers as president, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, providing that all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state shall be thenceforward, and forever free. The Emancipation Proclamation made the permanent abolition of slavery a Union war aim, and provided the legal framework for the emancipation of nearly all 4 million slaves as the Union's armies advanced. Hearing of the proclamation, many slaves escaped to Union lines as the armies moved south. And whereas this news reached Texas, when Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston Bay with Union troops, it was on June 19th, 1865, that he announced the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. Whereas celebration of the end of slavery, which became known as Juneteenth, is the oldest known public celebration of the end of slavery in the United States, commemorating African American freedom and celebrating the successes gained through education and greater opportunity. And whereas on a larger scale, celebration of Juneteenth reminds each of us of the precious promises of freedom, equality, and opportunity, which are at the core of the American dream. And whereas Juneteenth 2024 will be celebrated in Red Bank on June 16th, 2024 at Johnny Jazz Park, commencing at 1 p.m. Now therefore, I, William Portman, Mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, on behalf of the Borough Council, do hereby proclaim June 16th as a day to celebrate Juneteenth 2024 and urge all citizens to celebrate Juneteenth and recommit to working together to eradicate systemic racism and equality in our society wherever they find it. Next up, we have something that no matter how the rest of the meeting goes, is going to be my favorite part of the meeting. I know it already. We are honoring the Girl Scouts of Troop 625. So let me read something about you guys. So the project title, which the girls came up with, is the Magic Sparkle Girls Garden. Genius. Inspired. After cookie season, the troop discussed various things they could do with the money they earned selling cookies. The girls decided to save some money, spend some on an end of the year party, and to use some of the proceeds to do a project in our community. The project they decided upon for our community was to adopt a garden plot in town. They coordinated with the borough manager to get some options and selected a plot on White Street. The girls learned about what types of plants would grow well in the plot, given its exposure to sun, and chose drought-resistant plants they would be easy to maintain. They set a budget of $200 to spend on plants, fairy houses, and a sign for the garden. They worked through their budget to figure out how to best use our funds to fill the plot. On May 3rd, the girls planted the garden. They're going to assign one girl to check on the garden each week over the summer so we can make sure it is weeded, watered, and continues to look great. Nice job, girls.
Mayor, I'm just thrilled to have another department to oversee, and quoting Mr. Donahue there, fairy houses and all things sparkly, so it's my greatest honor.
So I have a certificate of excellence for each one of you. I call your name, come on up. And I'll give it to you, all right? So first up, and I'll read this one in its entirety, but they'll all be the same. The Borough of Red Bank Certificate of Excellence is presented to Adeline Dunn and the Red Bank Girl Scout Troop 6.
All right, Adeline.
Magic Sparkle Girls Garden on White Street. Next up, I have a certificate for Annabelle McDonald. All right, next up is Avery Dunn. All right. Next up, Declan Bowery. All right, thank you. Next up is Emma Goldenberg. Where's Emma? Got it.
Great job.
Next up is Evelyn Taish.
Come on up. Evelyn.
Next up is Kira Nizola. And next up is Liberty Birch.
Going to mama.
Way ahead of me. Next up is Lily Goldenberg.
This smells my next door neighbor. My next thing around.
This one, so you can see it.
Thank you. I saw Lily.
Next up is Maura Di Giuseppe.
Laura. Good job, Maura.
Next up is Maya Roos.
Good job, Maya.
And next up is finally Mila Johnson. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Ben, are you gonna be there? I guess so. They are so cute.
Yeah, wherever you want.
Let's try to get the volunteers.
Cool. The troop leader should be in it too.
Violet. Violet and Nicole.
I'll be in it.
Violet and Nicole, get in the picture.
You guys are.
Violet and Nicole, get in the picture.
Yeah, volunteers, come on up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
anybody.
Anybody who have
Liberty's
that.
mom. Yes, get in the picture. Hold on, there's more people to get in the picture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, get in there. There we go.
I like it, I like it. 1, 2, 3. Take a couple of them. All right, look at me, big teeth, big teeth, big teeth. One more, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Ben, I think you're in somebody's.
Big teeth.
Okay, you got it.
One more for good luck. Oh, the good girls.
Here you go.
Love those girls, got them.
All right, thank you.
He's more popular on McLaren Street. More popular in our neighborhood, pear or pumpkin?
Oh.
It is a lot, dude.
Pumpkin, put the. Hey. I gotta spend more time.
Probably. Well, pumpkin supports the mayor, so. I'll see you back home, all right?
Thank you.
See ya.
Get a glass of water.
Are we here for sure?
They're not that age. He does look fine. They're really. Very nice family.
I think you guys are all going out for ice cream now, right? Is that true?
Oh, that's
No?
not, that
All
is
right,
mean. That ain't right, man. That is not good politics. man.
Was about to have to reach into his own pocket if that went the other way.
Absolutely. Been my pleasure. All right,
Picture came out really.
next up, we have Sean, I believe, who is gonna give us the magical sparkle self-assessment municipal plan. Sean?
And be a.
Oh, okay, here as well, are they on? Oh, they're here, yeah, I didn't see them there.
Very tough.
Okay.
evening, Mayor and Council. I am here with Susan Bavati from BFJ. They have done a self-assessment on the borough based on our plan endorsement for our center. This is just a requirement as a formality of the whole process. We're into it.
Thank you, Shauna. And that's a tough act to follow.
Yeah.
Be as dry as this, but I'll try to get through it fairly quickly. The municipal self-assessment or the MSA report is an important part of the plan endorsement process, which in New Jersey generally seeks to align a municipality's master plan and other planning and policy documents with the state's plan, which is the state law plan. Red Bank in particular, why this is important is it's part of the borough's efforts to regain its designation as a regional center in the state plan, and also it's part of the process of getting the transit village designation. So it's a procedural step, it's formality, as Shauna mentioned, but it is an important part of that process. And there are some other benefits as well, which I'll touch on. Ultimately, it's the state's Office of Planning Advocacy who approves this MSA, and they've been involved all along the way. It's part of the pre-petition process to help give us some guidance and make sure that the borough is on the right track. I just want to make clear that the MSA is not a policy document. It doesn't have the force of the master plan. It doesn't direct the borough in a specific course of action, but it's a technical report. It's meant to provide kind of a detailed summary of your existing conditions, your prior planning efforts, and documents and policies. It provides an initial list of what Red Bank hopes to get from the state as part of this process, and includes a direct request to regain that regional center designation. And that would allow Red Bank to score higher grant funding application. State or even other things. It's an important designation that we once had and it just expired. So it should be really simple to get it back, but we do have to go through this process. So I will note that in the MSA, the municipal self-assessment did ask for 2 waivers from the state for the procedures. And the first of those is there's a community visioning requirement, usually part of this process. We asked if you can be successful, but we but basically made the case that the community visioning process as part of the master plan, that was fairly extensive. It did establish a community vision. They can be carried forward to this process to satisfy that requirement. And likewise, there is a requirement in the MSA to do a climate change vulnerability assessment. That was done as part of the master plan. It's a legal requirement now for master plans. So we just did it in the last 2 years. So we think that will also. There are some specific actions that we've highlighted in this MSA that the borough hopefully will get from the state as part of this this designation or the completion of this process, or could further these efforts. And the first of those relates to Sunset Avenue landfill site, the future park. I think you all are very familiar with that, and it's really great that the Monmouth County, Monmouth Conservation Fund, just got $500,000 to further environmental testing and environmental assessment. We could also call this out. The state should be looking to help fund some of their funding. So that's one thing that's highlighted. We've also highlighted the need for technical assistance as part of your transit village designation. That's another opportunity for the state to offer funding. New bike lanes and related infrastructure are something that's called out very strongly in the master plan and continues to be a priority. We understand. So that's something that we are highlighting for potential state funding or grants. And then also the Riverwalk, continuing to expand gaps along the waterfronts. That is something that we hope the state will look kindly on in terms of funding grants. So we do believe that the municipal self-assessment does show that the borough's master plan and its other relevant planning documents are generally consistent with the state plan, and that they do lay the foundation for the next steps in the endorsement process, which generally, once you all refer it up to the state, if you approve it, it basically goes to the Office of Planning Advocacy. There's a number of steps that they undertake within different state agencies, but this is, kind of the key step on the borough's end. We're in receipt, of some comments on the draft, and I'm grateful for residents who take a close read because there were some good comments. And these, I think you have the proposed change pages for you tonight, but I'm going to just quickly go through those. They all relate to redevelopment, rehabilitation, so they're all on a single page of the document, page 19. And again, I'll reiterate, nothing in this document affects redevelopment in any way. It's not any kind of designation, it doesn't change any prior designation or process that has been completed or is underway, but it's really just meant to relate the facts and the existing conditions and the existing state of redevelopment. So as a result of the comments that we received, we have made a number of, or several recommended changes to the document. And the first is just clarifying that the Visiting Nurse Association property, which I think we incorrectly indicated was a redevelopment plan or redevelopment designation, that actually was part of the rehabilitation area. A redevelopment plan was created for that site, but it was as part of the umbrella of the rehabilitation area. So that's a clarification. Another area is just the description of the rehabilitation area. As I think you all know, and it shows a figure that's part of this draft plan or draft report. That is a pretty extensive area. Rehab area. It covers much of downtown Red Bank, basically west of Broad. And the language in the draft report did talk about it being kind of around the train station, which is accurate. It includes areas around the train station, but it includes a lot more. So we're suggesting just some text to sort of clarify that further. I don't think it was incorrect. It just didn't quite explain the extent of that rehabilitation area. It was shown later. The other change, which I think is very technical, but is correct, is just clarifying that the two redevelopment plans for the White Street lot and 55 West Front Street, those were actually designated as part of a single redevelopment designation. They were then created two different redevelopment plans. So we've made that clarification as well. So it's really just those kind of four. Excuse me, there's another one. The new redevelopment designation around the train station. This just happened in the last 6 weeks, and basically crossed paths between when we submitted our draft and when you all made that designation. So we have updated it to reflect that that designation now does exist. So we do think that with these changes, I think the picture of your redevelopment plans and processes is very accurate at this point. There was one other comment which was raised about Shrewsbury Avenue. And this one's interesting, required some digging on our part and Shawna's part and more than us. There is a provision in your code, not in the zoning code, not anything related to land use, that does refer to Shrewsbury Avenue as a rehabilitation area. It's a part of the code that deals with tax abatements. And it's interesting that it was adopted the same year as the local redevelopment housing law was adopted in New Jersey. I'm not sure which came first, but it is very clear that this portion of your code makes no reference at all to the local redevelopment housing law. So we don't think that that rehabilitation area, even though it's defined in that part of the code, is a rehabilitation area under the LRHL. So it makes no mention of any kind of zoning impact or redevelopment plan, any kind of land use aspect to that. So we think it's still accurate to not discuss that Shrewsbury Avenue rehabilitation area, which was frankly news to us. I'm not sure if it's still even in effect. It's still in the books, but this section of the MSA was very specifically about rehabilitation areas that are under the LRHL. And this, I think, clearly is not. So we feel comfortable not including that in this section. The other edits I've just gone through, so they were good comments. I'll wrap up with next steps. You all have before you, I think, a draft resolution. Send this up to the state. Once it gets to them, they will convene some different agencies. And they'll do their own analysis, consistency review, and make sure that they agree with what we're saying on your behalf, which is that your planning documents are generally consistent with the state's plan. And then there will be a final action done by the State Planning Commission of endorsement. And after that, it just becomes monitoring and keeping up your paperwork. So this is an important big step of the process, and it's the last one that's directly in your control. And after this, we hope that the state will move expeditiously on your requests.
Yeah, Ben.
I don't remember your last name.
Pavati.
So I've been curious because for a long time I've attended these meetings prior to being a council member, and we always referred to. I've attended these meetings long before I was a councilman, and we often referred the body up here and others referred to us as a transit hub or town center. What was the terminology used before? So I'm just curious, did the state sort of retroactively decide to remove all those designations, or why did we lose it and now have to jump through these hoops again? Because, I for 20 years, and I remember, I think it was proudly announced here probably, I don't know if it's Mayor Mena or Pat or Ed McKenna, but you know, how did that happen? Why do we have to jump through these hoops again?
Let me just clarify that I wasn't sure what you're getting at. The transit village you don't have and never had. There's not a lot of communities around the states that reach that designation, but it was the regional center designation in the state plan and on their state map, and I'm sure when that expired.
That was expired back in 2020. So, New Jersey's separated into certain plan areas. There's plan area 1, plan area 2, and others. There's a few of other of them, and it's based on like your density, the amount of population that's there, the amount of growth and activity. There's protected areas, and it just so happened that because of where Red Bank is located, and the fact that we're on a train line, that we are serviced by multiple transit areas, multiple types of modes of transportation. And the fact that this is a growing area, the town, the state planning office or commission, when they wrote the state plan, they divided the entire state up, and we Red Bank fell within planning area 1. And a part of planning area 1, it's another subsection of categories, which is the center designation, and we just meet the different definition of a center. And so a part of the state plan, every year, actually the state plan is very outdated. It's been since 2001.
They've been updating it?
Yes, they've been updating it. And so a part of the whole process is that they have to, every couple of years, redesignate each and every area within the entire state. And so it's just that ours was up in 2020, and then because of COVID, the governor extended the deadline, and then it was extended one more time. And then we're catching up with redesignating ourselves. It's just a planning term, honestly.
Okay.
Anything else, Ben?
But, so we don't get any state funding without all this, so we have to do all this in order to get like funding for anything, Riverwalk, which sounds, I loved it.
Right, well, I don't wanna say you can't get funding, it just makes you more competitive to be designated as a center. Because it shows that you've got a lot of planning activity behind this, you are a growing area, you're served by transit, for all the kind of boxes that the state likes to see checked, so it makes you more competitive.
Thank you very much.
The state just likes to see that we have ongoing activities, that we're not stagnant, that we are, growing with the different initiatives that's happening throughout the state, that we're keeping up with, planning activities. So this is what this analysis is, that we're proving that we're moving along with what the state plan has, even though they're in the process of updating it. But it's just saying that we're conforming to whatever the state plan is.
I can't help but be a little cynical about, the state seems to reinvent itself on a regular basis and seems to not make its own deadlines on a lot of things. So this is fine, I guess, making us do all this. That's all.
Overall, the document really just highlights some of the strongest points of our master plan. I really like that we're rededicating ourselves again to, where our focus should be. I appreciate all the bike and ped language, talking about the dedication to circulation study, really necessary steps, environmental cleanup, dedication to affordable housing. Like you said, it's just reiterating the stuff in a nice package for them to digest. But I also think this would be great for residents to read. If there's anybody who didn't read the master plan, this has a lot of good summarization.
Like an executive summary.
Correct. It's like an executive summary of the master plan, which is kind of brilliant. So I think this is a useful document, even if residents wanted a quick guide to the master plan as well, so.
And what we could do, if council chooses to approve the resolution, Susan will clean up the document, make it whole, and we will have it on the website.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, how do we, I was gonna say now, do we have, I mean, if we have the experts here, it would be.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, let's just open this up for public comment while we have you guys here. Yeah, you know,
Motion, sir?
I motion.
yeah.
Or-
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Alan Hill, 64 McLaren Street. Thank you for the presentation, BFJ Consulting, the people who actually wrote our plans, our master plan, and have had a big input on the station area development and many other reports and consultancies in the area. I just wonder how qualified you are to make an objective assessment of progress. It seems odd, doesn't it? I mean, it does say self-assessment. So I suppose that's what you're doing, right? But what confidence can the people of Red Bank have in the objectivity of your findings? That's my first question.
I mean, I would say that we have a deep knowledge because of the background that we have here at Red Bank. I mean, I'm not necessarily going to defend BFJ. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but this is a technical report. It is not necessarily saying you've made X progress in the last 2 years since the master plan, and here's what you have left to do. It's really just putting together a snapshot of where Red Bank is at this time, making a case for the state that you are on a path that is consistent with what their vision is and statewide. Right.
Also, you mentioned in the, if you read the report, remember, you know, residents get about 24 hours notice of this report. That you consider consultations, some of them were the public comments at the last mayor and council meeting. Item C, it's, there might be another part to it, okay? Oh, no, I haven't got.
No, you're the mic.
Oh, the mic?
Did you want her to answer?
No, because we've got that point to make, yeah. You know, it's really typical, isn't it, of the way consultation of residents go. If anybody recalls the consultation over the master plan document, which actually amounted to residents being able to post 180 characters, size of a tweet, in for consideration. And now we've got this one here, you know, on, once again, based on comments made at the last general meeting of the mayor and council, without people who were commenting being aware that was consultation. And I don't know, how do you know what was said? How do you know what residents said? It's really unsatisfactory. You know, it's no good saying residents are consulted and residents are, you know, all this, when you have like a 50-page document presented to you. If you're lucky enough to be on the mailing list, and if you are competent enough to extract it out of a, you know, 203-page agenda today, how is that consultation? And I'm not really asking you, I'm asking this one. Mayor, how is that consultation? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to comment quickly.
Oh, sure.
I just think if there's any residents, you know, listening, you can read this document that's going to be online, and it's going to name all the ways that residents have actually been interacted with for the master plan, which is an extremely important document, and the incredible links actually that all of you went to reach those residents. So I'm actually extremely grateful for the work that you put into this. And it is above and beyond what other municipalities receive. So thank you so much. And I appreciate the work that you've done.
Anyone else have any comments while we have our presenter here? Okay, motion to close the public comment.
I'll make that motion.
Check if anyone's online.
Oh, yeah, does anyone know? Just have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I, wait,
Oh, I do. Oh, a hand just popped up.
One minute.
Motion to reopen the floor. For
So moved.
I don't think.
I'll second it.
Closing officially. No, nobody
All right,
Oh, Mr. Reardon.
you're on, Dan.
no. Can you hear us, Dan?
Not muted, so.
No.
No.
He's not muted? No.
Dan?
Dan, hop on your bike quick. You can be here in like 6 minutes.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes. Now we can hear you.
Now you can hear me? Okay. First, I think I missed the Girl Scouts, but I wanted to thank them. That is an excellent garden. So the other thing, I wanted to thank you guys for, I see that you're going to put the building department's documents online through OPRS. I think that's great. I hope that you'll put more things like that online. What's that?
Dan, can you hear me? Dan?
Yeah, yeah.
Just real quick, we're just doing a public comment because we have the planner here right now.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
I don't have anything about that.
Oh, okay, we'll come back here for the other.
All right.
Right, thank you. Motion to close the public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Steve has his hand up.
Well, it's up right now. So, motion to open the floor for public comments on agenda items only.
I'll make such a motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, Mr. Hecht.
Mayor, just before we dig into public comment, I just wanted to make a note for everybody that resolution 24-154, adoption of updated police department rules and regulations. I'm going to ask to have tabled tonight for the next meeting. There's a couple of changes in there that I want to make sure are addressed before it's actually codified. Since it does have me as the appropriate authority, I want to make sure that it's being presented appropriately. And I also want to make sure that we are getting the PBA's insight on that as well, just to be collaborative with them.
Thank you. So noted. Yes, sir.
Stephen Hecht, 135 Branch Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question about 2024-32 ordinance. That's the one that about the cannabis transfer tax and such. Question, is there a sunset provision on that ordinance?
No, there's not, Steve.
Is there a way that the council at some future date can choose another
Yes, by ordinance.
Yes, we
by
can.
ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I do understand with all the work that's going on with Parks and Rec, why that would be a wise choice at this point to allocate the taxes there. One other question about that. Can someone tell me what the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund is?
By rider, sure. So it's a dedicated by rider fund, which means that once we dedicate funds to that purpose, or for example, it's also the place we accept donations if you make a donation to our Recreation Commission. Also the place where we collect all the fees from summer camps and permit fees and things like that. Also, I believe that there are certain parking permits in Marine Park that also that revenue goes into there because that is park property and that is part of the Green Acres regulations. But long story short, it's not really so much what goes into it as it can only be spent on recreation and conservation purposes.
And
That's
this is not a new entity. This has been in existence.
correct. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Should we go to Dan now again? He was so
Seems fair.
patient, yeah. All right, Dan.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, so as I said, I just wanted to say thanks for the the building code's going up into OPRS. I hope you'll put more online. I'm not crazy about OPRS, but it works. The interface could be better, but it works. I also found 2024-32 sort of curious. I mean, I got to think that at this point, that trust fund's got thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars going into it annually. If we get everything geared up, it's going to have hundreds of thousands and maybe millions going into it. I'm curious why that fund was chosen.
Well, first of all, we have to start by saying we don't have a lot of funds right now because there's only one cannabis shop that's open. So it was analogy to me, it's like on a like beer budget, not a boat budget right now. We do have 2 other cannabis shops that are gonna open and that would be more money. So what we decided was to put it there. I look at it from a public health standpoint. We could also have educational talks for drug and alcohol for our young people through that money. And in the future, as we just told Stephen before, that we could switch the money when we get more funds to another something else in the town. But for now, it seemed like a good place to put it.
Yeah, so myself, Mayor Portman, and Laura Janot met on this as an ad hoc group on this piece of legislation, 3 of us. And essentially, this earmarks the money in a clear spot, in a clear tab underneath there, as opposed to it going into miscellaneous revenue. We just believe that, you know, from a public health approach and perspective, that there should be a visible and felt improvement by the public from this revenue, so that we can physically go somewhere and point to something and say that is due to cannabis revenue that was created from that. And we really wanted to avoid it just going into miscellaneous revenue and, you know, balancing then people being like, well, what did the cannabis revenue really do? Our CFO, when we met with him, stated that this was not bad policy. He was not against it. He said that it helps to know upfront what that money is. It helps all departments when you understand what you have in one place, what needs to be in another. So from his perspective, from a management of the funds perspective, he found it to be appropriate. And for us as, policy people and decision makers up here, it just makes it clear what those funds are and what can be done, like I said, to tangibly give an improvement to people that they can see and feel.
All right, thanks for that info. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments on agenda items? Yes.
Davis Scobie 25 Cedar Street. I just wonder if you can give some insight on what with the committees and changing of the committees. There was a lot of crossing out. What's the purpose of the changes of, I guess, the management operation of how the standing committees are formed or run? Number
33.
dash 33, 2024-33.
Sure, so, one, there was a lot of crossouts, but that was actually unnecessary. I drafted the original version and I didn't realize that, the charter, the change of government ordinance, it actually eliminated the sections after that. So long story short, it basically just codifies what the council is doing. There are no more standing committees in the council manager form of government. As you can see from the crossouts, the standing committees had significant administrative responsibilities and authorities, which have been gone since the prior ordinance, actually. But the new language that's in there is what's important, and that's basically what you just heard Councilwoman Trigiano describe, which was there's a particular issue. Council formed a specific committee to address that issue, and they came up with a solution to legislation. And they'll form again if they have another perhaps cannabis issue. Maybe they'll be the point people for that. But it really just codifies how the council is actually working. Subcommittees taking on particular issues and things that are going on. So that's the overall. I don't know if any councilman wants to add to that.
Same as when we had the budget committee. Instead of having a year-round finance committee, they became the budget committee. When the budget was done, the committee dissolved.
My second question is about, 2024-26, about the, Town BC improvements. I'm speaking on behalf of the school board. So I know there was some pushback. You hear some people for, some people against it. One of the comments made was, well, the public school uses for the Town BC Cup, which hasn't happened in a couple of years. However, when we do graduation, we just get our speakers out. I mean, spend about $100,000+ on a press box is really like a lot. We're not like, we don't have a public high school here. Our public kids go to different high school that need it. So I'm just curious, did anyone think about bringing it back and making it more, not so grandiose, of a stadium to save some money? I don't think there really was much changes from the initial, presentation.
Well, first of all, this is two separate issues. One, we're approving the bonding. We're not spending the money. We're just approving the bonding if everything turns out as it is. But I'd like to think big picture. The field at Count Basie to me is an incredibly underused asset. I think we could do some amazing things there. It could be an income generator for the town for a long time to come. I think just the partnership we have with FC Monmouth, for example, the semi-pro football team could really grow into something exciting. The timing is good for it. We have a World Cup coming here in 2 years. I mean, that's just one example of things that can be done there. So considering that the grant that we're approved for, hopefully, assuming that we can work out a deal with the school, is really covering the majority of the cost for this. So I think it's a good deal for us. And again, I'm thinking for the future, it's not a bad thing for the town to have a state-of-the-art football stadium.
So of the 1.3 million, isn't the grant only covering about 577,000?
Right.
50%?
Yeah.
And Mayor, I just would like to add to that it's also used by our youth football program there, has regular games on that field. They need an all-call box. Oscar uses that box we all call for the egg hunt multiple times a year when I'm there. And yeah, having the graduation there is a big deal. That's a lot of students to have in one space. So for them to have that there is pretty monumental. You know, and we do have partners that give a sizable amount to the borough to use that facility, and they actually don't receive first priority of it. So, you know, it is a sound investment and it does make sense. And, you know, I don't understand putting all that work into a place and then questioning if it needs a call box for an announcer. That just seems very, very strange to me. I just think it's very counterintuitive, and we're here to invest in our community. And I think if communal seating where we all sit together and enjoy something publicly, I think that's a good place for government to invest their money.
My next question is, I know people were talking about the trucks and the vehicles, the size of vehicles on the street. Is there any more discussion on any type of changes, or is what's written what you have? I know sometimes you guys have a discussion on the Advanced. They were talking about boats, not boats, trucks, hitch, not hitch trucks. I mean, I didn't know if anything, or are you guys standing by what's written, or is there any more discussion? Because I know I've talked to some residents who see the need for some change, because we do have trucks a lot, and I mean, some roads become a single one-way street, and that's dangerous. So I didn't know, is there any room for negotiation or change in that? You guys are sticking with the.
Well, I think we said when we had our discussion that, to me, this is an incremental ordinance. We'll pass it as we see it. We'll see what works. We'll change it if it's not working. We'll enhance it if it is working. So I think it's important to get something on the books here and start making that change, and we'll modify it as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Donald Ellis at Highland Avenue here in Red Bank.
Welcome, Donald.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for all the great work you do on behalf of the residents of the town. So my comments here today are really around item number 31, just briefly. And I do want to let you know, I'm really trying to drive this around safety, not anything else. So I know you have proposed in there a 10,000-pound vehicle limit. But when you take a look at a lot of the issues that are faced within the township, most of the vehicles are really under that 10,000 pound. They're usually class 2A or 2B vehicles, not so many. You'll get some class 3 vehicles, which are your larger trucks that are greater than 10,000, greater than 10,000 pounds. So the safety issues that I see all the time, and I see more on the our side of the town, which is over near Spring Street. A lot of vans that probably fall into the category 2B, and they're huge. I mean, they're big, they're long, they're high, and you can't see past them. So I would say that I would ask that you consider to maybe make the cutoff at the 2A level, which is pretty easy to identify. So it's anything over 8,500 pounds. So the kinds of vehicles that fall into the 2A category are your typical vehicles that people use, like the Ford F-150, a pickup truck, that's a class 2A vehicle. But when you get into larger 250s, 350s, the Rams, the big commercial trucks that tow a lot of those vehicles, that is in the 2B category. That's greater than 8,500 pounds. The other thing that I thought was interesting was really about the trailers. So the trailers, it looks like you're allowing trucks to have trailers hitched, but as long as they're hitched, they're okay. But when you look at some of these guys have like these big box trailers that are 12, 18 feet long, and they're big solid trailers attached to a truck. It's like trying to get past a small bus. You can't see. So I'd ask that you at least take a look at that. Maybe what you do is consider the combined weight of the vehicles. If there's a truck that's a class 2A, say 6,500 pounds, and they got a trailer, it can't go past that. But I also know it's difficult to enforce. And I think, Councilman Trigiano, you had some comments about it needs to be enforceable. And I totally agree with you. If you do the cutoff at the 2B, police officer can see immediately. All he has to do is check the registration on the vehicle, say right on there, class 2B or 2C or 3. So they can do that. I also found it interesting that you're allowing or don't allow stretch limos to park, which are way smaller and lower to the ground, probably a little easier to see past than some of these big trailers and vans that we see parked on the streets. So, and then the last point that I would have is that when you look at enforcement, I think you have a couple of different options. You're trying to go with the classification of the vehicle. You probably could also take a look at whether it's even a commercial vehicle. So a lot of commercial vehicles park on the street. And I'm sensitive to the fact that sometimes people need their commercial vehicles to go to work, and we don't want to deny people going to work. But I would say the vast majority of the time, it's a matter of convenience that people bring those work vehicles home. And in many cases, that at least my observation, in many cases, people park the commercial vehicles on the street and their own cars in their driveways or in their designated parking spots. So, they have the opportunity to take that vehicle and get it off the street, but they obviously want to keep their vehicle either in their driveway or in their designated spot. So I would just say that I think there are opportunities for reconsideration that you have, I believe, options to consider that will help improve the safety. Because even like on Spring Street, when we moved the parking over, there are like 35 houses on the other side that we tried to help out. If each one of those houses had 2 cars, that's 70 cars. Now on the other side of the street, you probably have 500 cars every day going in and out of those apartment driveways, trying to see past these trucks. And, all I can tell you that my personal experience is that it's just very difficult to see. I hope that nobody ever has a bad accident or a pedestrian walks out and right from behind one of those vans, the people coming down the street can't see past the van if somebody's walking out. And the cars that are pulling out can't see past the vans and the large vehicles that are there. So again, I don't want to take too much time. I just ask that you reconsider the designation of the vehicles that you're trying to get off the street. Maybe push it to the limit where it's a 2B, not a class 3 and or commercial vehicles.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And as I mentioned before, and you've experienced, if it's not working, we'll keep fixing it until we get it right. But I appreciate you coming with solutions.
Right. And like I said, I hope that you take this under consideration because it sounds like you're getting ready to pass it the way it is.
Definitely getting ready to.
Yeah.
It's right here on the agenda.
Yeah, I know. And I would hope that you take the opportunity.
It's an ongoing process, though. This isn't the end of the story in the legislation. This is the second piece of legislation. We started with the unhitched trailers. I think your suggestion is very good about the 2B vehicles. you know, your point, you just said, we move everyone across the street, it becomes disruptive, what have you. So we're trying to, let's move everyone who's over 10,000 pounds, maybe next time we'll move everyone over 8,500 pounds. Kind of going in a level so we don't disrupt everyone's life in town. But your points, some of them have already been considered, and not necessarily rejected, just pushed to the next, the next time.
The next level, yeah. Yeah, so maybe.
We might do an ordinance like this every 6 months, frankly, as the police report back to us, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to certainly have the opportunity to talk to you. It's always sometimes to catch it, and when you're doing the ordinance reviews, like I don't review it every week, kind of thing. I probably.
There's a lesson.
I know, a lesson. It's all part of what I should be doing, but sometimes you miss it if you're away. But I would hope that you take a look at this and give serious consideration to either commercial plates or the 2B designation. And then take a look at the trailers, combined trailer hitch, trailer weights.
The trailer is definitely number one on the next round hit list.
Okay.
And we're trying to figure out how to work on that at the moment.
Well, I would just tell you, I'd certainly offer the opportunity to participate in your discussion. I'm an engineer doing billions of dollars of construction in the state and all around the world. So I got a fair perspective on how to address some of this stuff.
Why don't you leave your card with Lori before you leave?
Yeah, sure.
Be more than happy to correspond with you, tell you what's going on in this.
Okay, all right, great.
I usually get.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks.
I think the way you said it last meeting was best, that we're doing it bite by bite. Like this legislation, we're approaching completely, this issue, we're approaching differently than others. And that can be seen with the progression of these, how we're doing this, just bite by bite, little by little, to make sure we don't step too far and then have to pull back. It's easier to just a little bit at a time.
Anyone else have any comments on agenda items? Yeah, Lou. Sorry, I saw a hand in the back first, man, and then, yeah.
I'm just curious about the
State your name and address, please.
Louis Demento, 9 Elston Court. What is the process for Marine Park from now on? I mean, we have something that some people call a concept, some people call it a plan. And, for refurbishing Marine Park at Sandy. And so I looked at that concept plan and it's going to take down every tree except 6. And then I'm concerned that once you do that, the whole nature of the park will be transformed, because there's a lot of trees on the hill now that are healthy for people sit in the shade, and they'll be gone except for a few of them. And I'm wondering if you're going to stick closely to that concept, or if you're going to have another detailed plan coming out before you move to the break dirt. And I just want to see what the process is.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll say, just without having gone out there and actually counted the trees, which I will take that in consideration because I haven't done that. But the goal is to not remove all the trees in Marine Park at all. I believe that the plan shows where there's going to be improvements in areas, and it shows what existing trees are there and what would have to be removed if that improvement is made. But it doesn't take the trees in totality of Marine Park into consideration. So if it's in an area that's undisturbed, we're not removing any trees whatsoever. But if the playground is being moved and, a tree or two needs to be removed and replanting of trees, then that will have to be considered. I know that on the plan, they do show the circled, right, the hashed red circled trees that would be removed.
They have 6 trees.
What's that, Nancy?
It's remain.
Those are
remains, yeah.
Yeah, so there's 6 of them that are gonna remain. The rest are gone out of,
I think it's
40 trees.
Is it the opposite?
Yes, you got it backwards. I looked at it carefully.
Yeah.
So
What I'm trying to.
gives me a little
What
bit
I'm
right.
trying to say is that if there's an area of Marine Park that's not being disturbed by the plan, the trees in that area are not to be removed.
Didn't you guys meet and you said that we would look into this and?
Yeah, and I just want to remind you, right now, the only thing we're doing at Marine Park is we're converting the tennis courts to parking, and then we're greening in the existing parking lot. So we have plenty of time to further look at the trees, but no tree, I don't think any trees, unless there's one on an island there. It's gonna be in the parking lot, right? Those ones that are on the island are gonna be coming out, obviously, because we're turning that whole area into grass.
Those are mostly dying, so that makes sense, but the ones on the hill, there's about 20 on the hill. And the plan, the concept plan or whatever, has all of them gone except 6. So it just seems
Right,
the plan should be more carefully explained to the public or, people.
yeah, we definitely will be looking at that and hopefully fitting the playground, which is designated for the area within and around whatever existing trees are there.
Yeah, there's always gonna be some limitations to that, right? Because there's a plan that has to be carried out. However,
It is.
I want to report back with your suggestion as to what trees will remain, which ones are on the plan that are identified to potentially be removed. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. I didn't go out to Marine Park to count the trees yet. I just don't think they were there. But to what the mayor said, this first phase is the greening in of that area and actually getting rid of a lot of the pervious coverage there. So
Yeah.
I will take that in consideration and hopefully report back soon on what trees are to remain.
So there'll be a report to the public about what is going to remain and what is going to go before you proceed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there'll be updates on the entire process, so
Right.
yes.
And I know that Shade Tree is going to take some interest in this topic as well.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
Online too.
We have one online. Oh, actually, no, this, yes, you're right.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Grimsgard. I live at Red Bank Terrace, Spring Street. It's a safety issue also with the people coming out of that apartment building. I've seen quite a lot of accidents come out of there. I'm nervous to live.
No, don't be nervous. We just want to hear what you're talking about. What building?
Red Bank Terrace. I'm on the end lot.
Okay.
Apartment. So I hear the crashing in this because the street is very small. The trucks are parked right there. You can't get in, you can't get out. And people starve. The street's not big enough. It's really not. Plus, people are putting out their shrubbery. Like I have one right there. So you can't get down that street. You have cars waiting, go, back and forth. And it's scary. Something's gonna happen there. I mean, I was thinking maybe if they could have the trucks parked up the street, away from the apartment buildings. It's coming out, you can't see anything when you're coming out there.
I'll certainly take that to traffic safety to look at the site.
Come see,
distance and, the site triangle when you're pulling out of the lot and make sure that it's.
I hear a lot of screeching and a lot of people, it's gonna happen. Okay,
I appreciate the heads up.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Come again. Come again now, you hear?
Okay.
All right. We have someone online, you said?
Hi, can you guys hear me? Yeah, Nicole Tage, 153 Hudson Avenue. I just, I wanted to follow up. I'm sorry if I missed the first part of the discussion with regard to the bond ordinance at Count Basie. So I certainly appreciate, the desire to invest in the town and the press box and those facilities are used by various entities that do provide revenue to the town. Do we have any type of analysis or projection as to like how those revenues from the entities that pay to use the facility will be, helpful in offsetting the cost? Is there any idea, like a certain percentage per year, or how long it'll be before we kind of like are able to pay off the bond with the assistance of those fund flows? Thank you.
There's a shared service agreement, specifically RBC. So every time there's been a capital improvement since the 80s, there's been an agreement signed in which there's a contribution for the life of the debt service. So it's figured out at the beginning when it's improved. And then there's a monetary contribution towards, like, there was a new track most recently. And and then RBC's contribution increased for a certain period of time that until the track is paid off. So that's functionally how the money that comes in is for the capital improvements, and then obviously the revenue is dealt with by Oscar and permit fees and the trust fund that we were talking about earlier for recreation.
And what about FC Monmouth? Because they use it and I think they use the press box too. So is there any type of like understanding of how that will help or offset?
So I know that's a growing program. As of currently, the FC Monmouth pays the normal permit fee to use the area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question on agenda items? Yes.
Alan Hale, 64 McLaren Street. This is about 2024-33. I heard Mrs. Gomez's questions and I heard the answers that were given, but I still am unclear as to how these changes are going to improve transparency and accountability of this council. Part of the answer was that these old committees will be disbanded and we'll just have little ad hoc committees of 3 or 4 people, you know, to meet about important things. Is it not true that ad hoc committees of fewer than 3 or 4 people don't need to produce minutes, don't need to produce agendas? You know, it seems like from the outside, that little closed huddles will go on and make important decisions. I mean, we've had it today, haven't we, on speaking about the self-assessment report. We've had it. Apparently, there was a little ad hoc committee that went through all this. What? How is this improving accountability? How does it improve transparency to the people of Red Bank?
So I could play, and I don't live here, so I don't particularly have one view one way or the other. I can play devil's advocate with you. The voters voted to have a council manager form of government. There's only one stop for accountability in a council manager form of government. He's sitting right next to me. By the code, he's responsible for everything in the town. So frankly, ad hoc committees could meet and they could tell him what to do and he could say no and do something himself. So legally, that's very, 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 very different than the standing committees that existed under the borough form of government, where I could make the argument that that's less transparent because the actual decisions and things that were happening in committees rather than at the council meeting, where the minutes were kept or not, right? Because most people don't read minutes. So I'm not arguing, I'm just playing devil's advocate. You could argue it one way or the other. It's 2 different ways to run the government. I certainly understand your points, but I think the other side, and that's what people voted for, so that's what we do up here.
Well, let's agree, it was not very transparent before. How is this going? We don't know what is being discussed. We don't know what people are going to say to the
Because every government action has to be taken. I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm sorry.
We don't know. Sorry, it's for my comments. We don't know. Anybody, any of you people up there will smirk and meet in your little meetings. Avoid being called a caucus, because that's partly what this is all about, isn't it? Under the new form of government. And oh, you want that explained? Well, I
just didn't hear what you said.
Okay, well, I haven't really got enough time, but I do not believe, and I don't believe the majority of the people in this town, and you know, only about 20% did vote for this council, will believe that transparency and accountability will be improved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? No? All right, anyone online?
No, sir.
Can I have a motion to close the public comment for agenda items only?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from 5/23/2024?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the exec section minutes from 5/23/24?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Ordinances. First up is oh no, I have a note here, right? I'm still running through it.
Yeah, I listed it in error.
Right.
The public hearing was scheduled for, the July 11th meeting.
Okay. Yeah, so the public hearing for this ordinance is scheduled for July 11th, pending a land use review. Right, so we're rolling past that. Next up is a public hearing and adoption of 2024-26 bonding for the Count Basie improvements. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
I'll make such a motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone have any comments on just the Count Basie improvements bonding motion, ordinance? Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
I'll make such a motion.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-26? What's that?
I got a second.
Oh, second.
I wanted to make a comment on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been listening to comments here and of course, it's been discussed at the Parks and Rec meetings. I've been long going to the Count Basie Park and been on those stadiums and, it's a lot of history in Red Bank, like close to 100 years. And my father played on that field. There's a couple things it's been a maintenance challenge for some time, the stadium in particular. And improvements do need to be made there. Been concerned for some time, as many up here and in the public, about lack of, say, railings, for example, when you're walking up and down those steps. And I'm inclined to say I'd like to maintain them and have them continue in town if it's financially viable, and obviously all the partners would need to contribute significantly for that to continue. Plus, we have an opportunity possibly for a grant. I guess we're voting on whether on that tonight. Of course, ultimately, it's the Board of Education's property. So I don't know the details, but I assume our manager is dealing with the Board of Education on the topic. And you know, hopefully that business will be resolved. No, I don't want a dilapidated stadium. It needs to be properly maintained. I don't, it's an important facility for Parks and Rec for storage. Not that we couldn't find another location or build one, but it's not an insignificant issue. There isn't a lot of storage space that I'm aware of that Parks and Rec can use. So that would have to be solved. The other thing that concerns me is that as an audience member, not so much as a board member up here, I remember some environmental issues with that facility, and it worries me that if we were to tear it down or raise it, that actually would probably be a very significant undertaking. If you've ever been there, I think the whole top of it's made of steel or something. And I think it would be a very significant and probably costly demolition, although I'm certainly no expert on it, but it's something we would certainly have to take into account. I've actually seen a lot of use of it. I mean, I haven't done a survey, and I don't go there every day, but I do drive by a lot and see a lot of use there. I've been at the Count Basie Field for middle school versus the charter school, soccer games, and numerous other events as a school board member. I'll be there Friday for the graduation, which does use the stadium, and when I've been there, there's been a lot of use on that stadium for that day. So anyway, I just wanted to comment, that's an ongoing topic of discussion at the Parks and Rec meeting, and I know up here, and I just wanted to make that comment, and I do plan to vote yes.
Thank you. Did we get a second already on that one?
A second.
Okay, and roll call, please, Laura.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facey Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Genoa?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next up is a public hearing and adoption of 2024-27 bonding for TAP grant projects. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone have any comments on ordinance 2024-27? I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-27.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes.
Fantastic, sir.
Next up is public hearing and adoption of 2024-28 bonding for road improvements. Do we know what specifically is this? What was on?
Several, yeah.
There's like a bunch of them, right? Sarah's on there.
Right.
Okay,
Harrison, Wyndham. That's the.
so can I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2024-28 only?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone have any comments on this ordinance? I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a motion to adopt 2024-28.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes. Next, we have a public hearing and adoption of 2024-29 bonding for Marine Park improvements. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public, anyone have any comments on Marine Park improvements? All right, can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2024-29.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yep.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes. Thank you.
I'll do it
Thanks.
again.
What's that?
I'll do it again.
Yeah. Remember how we started this meeting? Just anyone who's still here, I'll just remember that was great. Let's revisit the,
We just funded Shrewsbury Avenue and Marine Park. This is an amazing meeting.
yeah. Can I have a motion, to open the public hearing for ordinance 2024-30, bonding for water and sewer utility?
I'll make such a motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone have any comments on 2024-30? No, can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-30.
I'll make such a motion.
I have a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes,
Motion passes, sir.
thank you. Next up is a public hearing and adoption of 2024-31, amending chapter 680 vehicles and traffic to prohibit the overnight parking of oversized vehicles on public streets and right of way. I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only.
I'll make such a motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone want to add anything to 2024-31? Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only?
Make such a motion.
Motion, have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-31.
Sure. Yeah.
Second,
Second.
roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonatakis?
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest?
Yes.
Councilmember Janone?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano?
Yes.
Mayor Portman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up is introduction of 2024-32, amending chapter 270 cannabis of the borough's revised general ordinances to dedicate all cannabis transfer tax revenue to the Red Bank Borough Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. Can I have a motion to approve the ordinance on introduction?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Vonatakis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest, Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano,
Yes.
Mayor Portman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. There'll be a public hearing on this ordinance on June 27th. Next up is an introduction of 2024-33, amending Chapter 85, Mayor and Council of the Borough's Revised General Ordinances to remove mandatory standing committees and administrative duties and replace same with discretionary project policy issue-specific committees of the Borough Council. Can I have a motion to approve on introduction?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Vonatakis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano,
Yes.
Mayor Portman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. There'll be a public hearing on this ordinance on June 27th. For the resolutions, two of them were pulled already, 24-145 and 24-149. Jim has asked that we hold off on 24-154, so.
I'll make a motion to table 24-154.
All right, can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right. Are any of the other resolutions, anyone needs to do them separately, or can we do them on the consent agenda?
Consent agenda, Mayor.
That's all right, okay. Can I have a motion to approve resolutions 24-143, 24-144, 24-146 through 24-148, and 24-150 through 24-153?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Vonatakis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Facy Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Trigiano,
Yes.
Mayor Portman.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. I'd like to have a motion to open the floor up for public question and comment.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Barbara. All right.
Barbara Boas, 135 Branch Avenue. Two comments. Number one, thank everyone for coming to the trivia night. We made a lot of money. Number two, I would like to know how and why certain corners are being painted yellow and others are not. How does the town decide which corners are going to be painted yellow, the curbs? I see, I've been living in my house for 22 years and it's never been painted yellow. And so it just seems that it's missing something.
What corner is that, Barbara?
Corner of East Bergen and Branch. The same place I want the crosswalk. That's all right. At least the cars won't be parked there and getting crashed by the people who go 90 miles an hour around that corner.
Yeah, I mean, there's statute that Title 39 that prevents people from parking a certain distance to the corner.
Really?
Yeah.
I do know that.
Right.
That's why I'm asking.
But you're saying that. Which doesn't require a painted curb, but you're inquiring why some are and some aren't.
Yeah, and this is a particularly dangerous and particularly, I don't know, it's very busy. And there are many accidents on that at that intersection.
I appreciate you bringing that to my attention.
And to the extent that a family across the street had to move out of their house because a car went right into their house and their children couldn't sleep anymore. So it's a pretty reckless place. No, that's a different street. Thank you for looking into it. I would appreciate it because it really, I don't care if people park in front of my house. That's not the issue. It's close.
Closest to the intersection. To the stop signs, right. So I'll be sure to let traffic safety know and Terrence know from DPU to just look into that. And if there's a need to paint the curb, that it gets done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And thank you for your patience on this issue. It's not the first time this has come up,
The
so.
yellow's on, this is my first.
All right, first with the yellow, all right.
The crosswalk, I think I'm gonna go down and sit in Freehold and just wait and talk to somebody down there.
All right.
Maybe they'll listen. Little old lady.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
But you should tell her that. She just said she was gonna go to their meeting. Tell her.
Actually, Barbara, just so I can follow up. We met with one of the commissioners recently in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In the last 2 weeks. East Bergen and Branch was a topic of our discussion to request crosswalk, so.
Yeah, we brought it to him.
So we'll be sure to follow up with the commissioner on that. Absolutely, certainly.
Makes me happy. Cindy Burnham, 71 Wallace Street. I'm here tonight to find out, we are in regards to short-term rentals. We're up to the 20 days, right? Now you can start to enforce. So what's the procedure? If we see a Airbnb and we know that the owner lives in Atlantic Highlands, what do we do?
So bring that to our attention,
Who's our?
to the code office,
Okay.
right? That'll be,
What if it's on a week?
I'm answering your question, Cindy. So
Okay,
bring it to the code office, go look into it. If it's on a weekend, you're most likely gonna be calling it a noise complaint or something like that, which could be called into the police department, which would be followed up with our code office. But as far as the bringing the person that owns the short-term rental into Borough Hall to make sure that they're registering and seeing if they qualify for an actual license and registration under our new system, it's gonna have to be brought to our attention so that we can make contact with them.
right now, what's the procedure for you reaching out to let these people know that they have to register?
But notice a violation that they're not registered.
Oh, so they have to be in violation first?
Well, they're in violation if they're operating a short-term rental without a license.
Well, wasn't that the whole reason with 60 Monmouth Street, at 60 Mechanic Street? You said that he had a really tricky lawyer and that he got off because he wasn't registered.
And I was at Oakland, but yeah, that was before,
No, I'm talking about 60 Mechanic.
I never said that.
you might be, but the conversation about the tricky lawyer was the guy on Oakland Street.
Oh,
But that was before we had changed the ordinance, and now we believe the new ordinance is enforceable as it is written, so.
That unit's actually for sale now.
Is it?
Correct.
On Oakland, yeah.
It's listed.
It's listed.
what are you gonna do what's gonna be the procedure? Because I know the guy across the street from me swore he lived there, he and his girlfriend, and they don't, they never did, but they lied. So how do we prove that if they say that they did, and even maybe even their license might say, they might have that address on their license, but they don't actually live there. How would we?
Yeah, I know you're offering a lot of hypotheticals, but
It's not hypothetical, it's the
well,
truth.
it's a hypothetical of what they're going to say when they come in to register their short-term rental.
That's what they've said before, that they live in it.
Now there's a registration process, so they're gonna have to come and lie to us in Borough Hall, and that's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a problem for them.
Yeah, be a problem in court too.
What about inspections, like COs, things like that, in regards to these short-term rentals?
I believe it's in the ordinance, isn't it? They have to get an annual inspection.
Oh, an annual. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments, questions? Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and neighbors and Zoomers. My name is Georgina Shanley, Red Bank, New Jersey. I think you all know why we're here, to see if City Council has any compassion in what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank, to help end the killing of ordinary civilians, release all the hostages, and give humanitarian aid to the people who are starving, and send it to Biden and Malone and all the rest of them to hurry the process forward, because Biden is speaking great words about a ceasefire, but meanwhile he's sending arms to Israel. So try to figure that out. I just want to remind you, we have 38,000 people who have been killed, mostly women and children who are not Hamas people, are not terrorists. And we have almost 100,000 injured. And the psychological damage that's done to the survivors must be horrendous. Gaza is only 25 miles long and 6 miles wide. You originally had 2.2 million people. There's no exit from them. They can't escape. we had a famine in Ireland and at least people could leave. And a lot of people here probably have ancestors who were able to come across victims of the famine, but survived very well in the United States. The people of Gaza cannot leave. It's an open air prison. They don't have arms, the people of Gaza. They have a resistance movement called Hamas. God only knows where they are, or how well armed, or what's happening there. It's really, we're losing. We had 108 journalists killed, 254 aid workers killed, people who are helping killed, no arms. And we're reaching a stage where we are losing our rights as a result. There's even a law that's just been passed. There's so much to say, but I know I have 8 seconds, but other people can have much longer time. And often you respond, which is really an incredible experience. It must be, it's a rare one. We've never experienced it. So one day, maybe before we die, we have a response from somebody on City Council. At this moment in time, there are so many bills in Congress stripping away our rights. Like here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's another one. It's called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, and it really conflates our First Amendment protected political speech, critical of the Israeli government and state of. It's called anti-Semitism. To be critical of the Israeli government is anti-Semitism. And that's against hate crime. 6408, and it would strip non-profit organizations of their tax-exempt status with virtually no limitations or accountability, because the organizations have viewpoints that official or presidential administration disagrees with. 7914, it is to enacting sanctions against Palestinian organizations that have not been designated a terrorist organization. And it would set a precedent that would allow Congress to implement sanctions on organizations that administration officials have not found to meet the criteria for designation. It would another one would codify and entrench the narrative that pro-Palestine movement is responsible for the anti-Semitism in the United States. If it's a continuation of Congress's focusing on combating anti-Semitism. And also there's a bill in Congress.
I'd like to call the order. She's over time. And I want to respond to her actually.
Okay, can I just say, Mr. Forrest, can I finish what I was going to say? Or no?
I think you've gone substantially over your time.
I think it's about a minute over my time.
You can override me. I was just commenting.
You can finish up,
All right, let me just finish this. We have another law introduced by 2 Republicans that it originally is to cover service members like reservists and members of the National Guard while on active duty. And this one would be extended to American citizens serving in the Israel Defense Forces. So whatever benefits a reservist and our National Guard would receive, the same benefits would be extended to American citizens who fight for Israel. So it's getting a little bit out of control, and I think it does affect all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I just wanted to respond to you, Georgina. I have responded to you at meetings.
You're the only one.
No, I think actually.
I think
Mr.
I have
Cassidy,
too.
And I think, and I don't feel like, since I'm not really going to say anything that I haven't said, that I don't need to take up everybody's time kind of repeating. I think I said it twice. I mean, the basic gist of which is that probably not going close to 2,000 doors when I ran, and I didn't really talk to people in town about international issues. Now, a couple of people thought that I was running for Congress or something, and they may have brought up international issues, but I don't disagree with a lot of the points you've made, but I am really I'm not comfortable speaking for people of Red Bank on this issue. I've heard a lot of different points of view on this, and I may personally share much of your point of view on this, but I'm up here in my capacity, obviously, as a Red Bank councilman, and maybe next time, if I run for re-election, I'll ask people about the issues. feel a little more comfortable with it. Now, I could revisit this issue at some point. Nobody's told me not to make a motion and bring it up, but, I'm here representing my view, I'm here in my view, representing, the interests of Red Bank and what concerns business of Red Bank. And I just don't really want to get involved in the Middle East on this topic. Now, you and I are not going to agree on this, but I just wanted to make the point that you have gotten responses from multiple of us, most of us, and I basically said all this to you before. And with that said, I'm glad you're here at every meeting fighting for a cause that you believe in, and it's inspiring, and you inspire me.
Okay, thank you very much, please. I heard you. It does affect the people of Red Bank in many, many ways. And if we see our rights being stripped away, it's going to affect all of us. And thanks very much, Mayor Portman, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? Yeah, go ahead. You want to go? Someone online?
RF.
No button.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sarah and I'm from Homedale, New Jersey, Monmouth County. I also wanted to kind of highlight a couple points that Georgina said before me, and also in response to our council on this. I know we've gotten multiple responses from council members at Red Bank, and I know time and time again we hear things like, oh, this is an international issue, it doesn't exactly involve us. And the truth is, like, when you say things like, oh, like maybe next time I'll ask people when I'm running for re-election, the thing is, there is no next time, right? Palestinians in Gaza and in Rafah and in all parts of Palestine, like the Palestinian territories, even if there were to be a ceasefire right now, thousands of Palestinians would still be dying because of the lack of healthcare due to starvation, right? So it's not even just the fact that we need the war to end. It's the fact that it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take years and years for us to actually rebuild and let these people strive and live again, right? Even in terms of current politics, there was a bombing in Gaza that the U.S. actually took part in. And it's not just our tax dollars that's going straight to Israel. It's the fact that our own humanitarian aids from the U.S. They're planning, they're strategizing with Israel to kill people in Palestine. And as members in New Jersey, in America, we shouldn't be okay with this, right? It doesn't make sense for us to be like, listen, it doesn't involve us, because our tax money is still benefiting the people that are murdering and killing these Palestinians. Palestinians are seeing their own parents being murdered. Over 17,000 children in Palestine live without either a mother or a father. There are different orphans. There are multiple accounts of doctors saying that they're literally giving Tylenol and painkillers to kids with severed limbs. I personally think that this is something that Red Bank needs to talk more about. I don't really understand the whole argument with the whole there being different sides to the issue. It's clearly a genocide that's taking place right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if people had the same perspective back when the Holocaust was still taking place, and why it took so many months and why it took years for the US to actually take a stand against that. It's because of moments like this, right? We kind of see everything as like a multi-sided issue when it's clearly not. There is an oppressor and an oppressed group, and there are people that are dying, and it is our job to stand up for these people. We're not just coming here to preach to the choir and tell you guys that, hey, like, we're not just here to inspire you guys. You guys actually have the power to do something about it. Red Bank actually has the power to start a movement in Monmouth County. A lot of these towns could actually follow into what Red Bank is doing, and Monmouth County can actually be pro-Palestine. And there's a lot of power in your hands. As a group, I was going through the agenda and the meeting minutes, and there was a lot that you guys said about Pride Month and about Juneteenth. And I genuinely take pride in how much accountability and how much politics and how much activism that Red Bank already takes part in, right? But it doesn't stop there. It needs to include Palestine. There's no such thing as queer liberation without Palestine. There's no such thing as Black liberation without Palestine. There's no such thing as having any of these conversations without Palestine. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. Good evening, Council. Vegan Zarabian, 185 Maple Avenue. like a dialogue here. It's really disturbing that after what's been going on in Gaza, in the Middle East, and the events of Russian warships going to Cuba and eventually Russian warships going to Venezuela, we need to let the federal government hear our voice. This is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that a genocide is happening in Gaza. And I know you've said that it's not, you're more focused on a Red Bank issue. But Mayor Portman, you wrote a letter on a Red Bank headline that you stand with Israel, and there are some times that you don't stand with Israel. Do you stand with Israel with what's going on right now to the Palestinian people? It just disturbs me of not voicing. We're on the side of peace. We want a ceasefire. We want the killings to stop. That's what we're all asking for, is to make our voices heard, to let the federal government know that this is unacceptable. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, me and John Su, who was running against Pallone, we went to a few homes in Red Bank, and all the people that we've met, they're very disturbed of what's going on in Gaza. Please be on our side and pass this resolution that Georgina had drafted. It's about peace. It's about stopping killings. Please. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Someone else online, I think.
Hi, Nicole Tate again, 153 Hudson Avenue in Red Bank. I've said a lot of this to you guys, to many of you privately on the council, but publicly I want to say, first of all, I am supportive of you not taking a stance on this issue. This is a federal issue. As far as I know, the Red Bank Town Council does not have any role in negotiating the end of this conflict with Hamas. Hamas started it, Hamas could end it, okay? I don't think you guys have any role in those negotiations, not so far as I know. I also don't believe there's any portion of the Red Bank budget where my Red Bank tax dollars are going to fund this conflict. So I think you guys have done a great job here in Red Bank, and I fully support people's right to voice their opinion and the right to protest. Anyone who knows me knows I'm all for that, but I am for you guys continuing to do a very good job at what you are doing. These meetings run long. You guys had several ordinances up tonight that are pretty complicated, and I think you're doing a great job, and I would love for you to focus on that. I would love for folks who have federal issues, take them up with your congressman. I'm sure Frank Pallone is very receptive to these arguments. If you're in Chris Smith's district, good luck, but I really just, I'm a Red Bank resident, and I have many friends who agree that we want you guys to stay the course and just continue doing your job. And privately, if you'd like to voice them as a private citizen to the federal level, great. But I don't think that this conversation has any place at this meeting anymore. It's taken a lot of time. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments, questions? Yes.
Alan Hill, 64 McLaurin Street. I'm not going to go rehearse the incredibly moving arguments in favor of taking a resolution on this matter. I think, in actual fact, that the reaction of this committee, sorry, not committee, this council, says enough for me about your attitude. And that is, you just sit there in silence. I know one or two people are going to say, oh, well, I said one or two things about that. But the majority of you have permitted your mayor to make a statement on your behalf. One or two of you have come back with some mealy words which are meaningless. You claim that there's no support in the town for this motion. In fact, we've just had an instance of where you're wrong, somebody has called in, uses fake information. If anybody thinks Hamas started this war, they have a very short memory. In fact, they can't remember probably from the beginning of this year. This is a conflict that's been going for something like 80 years now. And just to come out and use as an argument, it's all a particular person's fault. So, you stand on that. And I think that's what will be remembered. And, if you think on the basis of just the people who speak to you, that, you know what's going on in this town, well, quite a lot of people speak to me and my friends out here as well. And it's a slightly different story. I'd like to move on, just another a topic. I don't know if I get the full 3 minutes, but this afternoon I was driving along Doctors Parker Boulevard. I noticed what appeared to be some new share the road with cycles signs gone up. I just wonder, am I wrong? Are these not new? Because if they are new, they're certainly going up against the advice of the great majority of people who are active in safe cycling, that the share the road signs do not work and should not be used. That's just, and the last thing I've got on the countdown, you're counting me down now, and at the moment, nobody's getting back to me. But I've noticed that you do count down. I'm going to carry on in this a point about the countdown. The 3 minutes includes responses from the chair. Well, I've watched it today. I'm sorry, you may have missed it. You may have missed it at the end too. Okay, it's just not fair.
No one's telling you to stop talking. You can.
Oh, I know. At this moment, I know. But I'm just saying, previously you talk about your 3 minutes. Often, a minute or more is actually a response from the top table, and I'm going to accept. Yeah, I run some Zoom meetings as well. I forget to push the button sometimes, but
I do try and make a conscious effort.
I understand, but it does happen.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Anyone else online?
No, sir.
Okay, I have a motion.
Just one.
All right, go ahead.
Hello. I was there about a month ago. I'm Scotty. I'm from Bayhead.
Your address, please.
I'm Scotty. I'm from Bayhead. I don't come from Long Branch. From Red Bank. I was going to be there, but there was no trains that would have gotten me
You took the train last time, right?
Huh?
You took the train last time. I remember you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. South Jersey.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep, nice to hear you.
So I wanted to give my perspective as someone who comes from a whole lot of Jewish refugees that came here in the early 20th century, late 19th century. My great-great-grandfather came here to start a new life, to get better opportunities. He moved from a city called Dvinsk, which was in the Kingdom of Russia at the time, and he later became a city of the USSR.
That's in Boris's.
He traveled home very often. I don't know if it was for business or to see his friends and family, but in 1935, he became a naturalized citizen because he wanted to go home and be able to come back as an American, because he could have gotten denied re-entry into the United States because of immigration laws. But he never got the chance to go home again, because from 1941 to 1943, the Nazis systemically eradicated all the Jews of the city. Out of 15,000 people that were estimated to have lived there, the survivors are estimated to be under 100. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Israel has not alluded to any of this. What they're doing, the Israeli government wants me to believe that Israel is my homeland, but it's not. They want me to forget about the destruction of this ancestral homeland that I actually had in Dvinsk, forget all the relatives whose name that I'll never learn, the graves of my great grandfather's 4 younger siblings who died as teenagers. Because what they're doing is so similar to what the Nazis did back then to that city. It absolutely terrifies me how similar it is. And it absolutely terrifies me to have to reckon with the fact that these people who I considered my people are the ones who are now acting like Nazis, reciting Nazi rhetoric, engaging in war crimes. And it's driving me insane that the American media and Israeli media is throwing around the term anti-Semitic as if it means absolutely nothing to them. There was a Starbucks sign a month or 2 ago that was vandalized with bumper stickers, and they were calling it an anti-Semitic hate crime that a Starbucks sign was vandalized with stickers. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was targeted. There was no anti-Semitic language on the stickers. It was just pro-Palestinian language. And it was being treated as if it was like a shooting, like it was violent. A protest against genocide is never, ever a call for genocide. That's the entire point. And the fact is that Israel is the one who is anti-Semitic. They want Jews globally, all of us, to feel unsafe where we are. And yet they also want to portray us as all having this hive mind where they can all portray all of us as these violent colonizers who want to get rid of all of the Arabs from Gaza. The next time somebody calls this side of the argument anti-Semitic, I urge you to consider that that is exactly what Israel wants you to think, because they do not consider the Arabs of Gaza to be Semitic. They do not consider them to be equal. Sorry for I'm sounding a bit emotional. It kind of is.
You done? Thank you. Have a motion to close the public comments.
Make such a motion, Mr.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Christina, you got anything?
Sure, I do just want to respond because we had a couple of comments this evening. And again, I always appreciate folks attending and speaking again, like our last speaker here from the heart. A couple folks asked for or noted that they hadn't heard all of the council members voice their opinions on this matter. I just want to say I'm not hesitant to do that. You said you want to see the killing stop. I want to see the killing stop desperately. I'm not hesitant to say that in any way. But at the same time, I'm not up here because I like to hear the sound of my own voice or even hear it mirrored on this dais. That's not what I find rewarding or why I do this. I do this to forward constructive things for our community. So just want to differentiate. I'm not hesitant to say that. I've had those private conversations, but I want to make that clear. Outside of that, on the topic of constructive items, I just want to share, I was very privileged to attend last week the Planning and Redevelopment Conference in New Jersey, hosted by New Jersey Future and the New Jersey chapter of the American Planning Association. Really wonderful conference. We hear a lot of thought leadership on issues that we're hearing around the state. So, and things that we share here in Red Bank. So affordable housing, climate adaptation, placemaking, parking, and the future of that. Really exciting. I also want to report that Red Bank was really well represented. Shauna, our Director of Community Development, was there. Also resident and planner Megan Massey spoke on a panel, as well as Bob Zuckerman from River Center. And it is nice when you're a room full of planners, when you mention you're from Red Bank, there's a little glint in the eye because people really do recognize this as a special place. So that's nice to see. You know, we have a lot of the same struggles that are seen throughout the state, but I think we have a unique set of opportunities here. So it's really exciting to come away and remember that. And especially with this particular group, I know we're sensitive to these issues and we can continue to do a lot.
I just want to start by acknowledging the evening of our last meeting, Evelina Mena passed. And that's the mother of former Mayor Pat Mena. And He was a devoted servant of this town, but he was even more so a devoted son to his parents. And he set a heck of an example for how to help your parents in their old age.
Yes, you
And,
do.
I just want to send condolences to Mayor Mena and to his family. As 3 weeks have passed, I can only imagine the size of the hole that remains in his heart. So he's in my thoughts. I want to acknowledge the work of Bob Holliday and his daughter Bailey Holliday in particular for the work they did over setting up for the lawn for Pride. Kate and I had the privilege of joining them, but in particular Bailey, she's gone to help Bob every year. Great family, but it's just above and beyond the call of duty. We have Juneteenth coming up this Sunday. I will be away. I send my regrets in advance for not being able to attend. And finally, if anyone was wondering what the Golden Bird Girls and I were discussing, those are my neighbors. It's that the mayor's not as popular on our street as my cat. That's what they wanted to share with me. So, but they were adorable, and I just appreciate the acknowledgement that you laid out for those kids. Made their day. They'll be good citizens. It's a memory they'll carry with them. So thank you.
The notes I have from the EC is that they'll be drafting a letter voicing their concerns about the proposed development in Middletown at the headwaters of the swimming river. This is a development that is going on Newman Springs Road and close to the intersection of what's the name of that road? Hance? No, Hance. Yeah, Hance, but it's where the old Belcourt building is for the old telecom people here. It's where the Belcourt building was. They're putting up new development there. And while Middletown is saying, oh, well, they already have the infrastructure there, there is concerns by Tinton Falls that the water of the swimming river will be negatively impacted. And there was some research done. So Red Bank EC will be in support of that, of supporting Tinton Falls in their petition to Middletown to please take that under consideration. The EC is also drafting a flyer encouraging sustainable landscaping practices, which also include the gas-powered leaf blower reduction. They are also drafting a native plant ordinance. They do have to work through some of the nuances, given climate change, what is actually native now, right? There will also be tabling at the Juneteenth event at Johnny Jazz Park. I would also like to report that the parklet that was developed with a grant from the EC, it was the AARP Destination Red Bank grant, that included a website with all the information about healthy walking around town, people and places of interest, and then a parklet at the corner of White Street. Shade Tree would like to report that the trees that were planted as part of the grant have now passed inspection. And they're working with Terrence and Maria to put together documentation so the borough can get the reimbursement. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben?
I wanted to comment actually on the limo parking ordinance and all that business. I want to thank council for adopting it. And one of the other issues that wasn't mentioned in the discussion earlier is that there's also on many streets, my street, but others, parking problem. There's too many vehicles. And I think that one of the things that came to mind is I really would not want limos parking, in Locust Avenue, is we don't have the friggin' room. I mean, one of the things that's happened because housing is so absurdly expensive that you have people piling in the houses. 25 years ago when I moved into Red Bank, there was never a problem any time of day parking on Locust Avenue. It is completely the opposite now. So one of the things that, this is a minor issue in the scheme of things. The main reason I support this is that it's really inappropriate to park big trucks on residential streets. But I don't, and I want to agree with some of my colleagues up here, I don't want to ban businesses from Red Bank or people who work, need their vehicles and reasonable sized trucks, okay. And we can tweak the ordinance. I'm a little concerned that, we're erring on the side of maybe just too many big ordinances, but we'll see what happens. I listened to many voices on this and I know some of them are not, no matter what I do, they're not gonna be happy, but I think this is a good step and we'll see what happens and whether we have to tighten it up some more. So thank you for moving along. And this issue has actually come up a lot over the years I've sat here in the audience. So it's amazing that we are actually moving on it. And I think this is much better than doing what Long Branch did, which was ban all commercial vehicles. Okay, and I have spoken to some of my neighbors on this, including a lawn business maintenance, and I think he is grateful. They certainly sounded like me last night when I had a conversation that we didn't ban all commercial vehicles. And many of our landscapers and others make an effort to minimize their impacts on others, and I really appreciate it. Okay, the other thing is, I'm looking at my notes here. On the Parks and Rec, we had a meeting last week, but I just wanted to say how amazed and impressed I am by the way the whole department is operating. Pride, the event this weekend was really well done. It was a lot of fun. Sure, I guess it would have been nice to have another 1,000 people there, but it seemed like it was well attended to me. And I got a lot of good feedback. So a lot of us were there and hitting on all cylinders there. And then we also have Juneteenth coming up this weekend. I want to be there for Father's Day, as I know some of you will be. So I just, I'm just amazed at all the things. I think also the Tai Chi is a big hit over there at the senior center, and we got movies coming and lots of other things that Parks and Rec are doing. So, and also Laura joined us at the last Parks and Rec meeting, and I think it's great when more of us participate on those committees. I also wanted to comment a little bit on stuff that Mr. Hill, about the government, and I was listening and thinking about I was on the finance ad hoc committee. I guess my view from it is that it really isn't like borough business when we did it. It was it was more of a presentation from finance department and I guess Jim. And they were talking to, I guess, us in a capacity, kind of an advisory capacity. It really wasn't, I don't remember any kind of real decisions there other than this is what we're thinking of doing, and all the business parts, all the decisions were made here and were on the agenda. I could have voted no, or I could have brought questions or demanded the business administrator or manager do something different, but I think it's actually a good idea to try to get input from members of the public, and that includes council. Feedback, and use us as sounding boards for things before you make your decisions, but you make the decisions. We approved and went along with most everything, but I felt like I was there in an advisory capacity and I wasn't actually making financial decisions. So I just wanted to make that comment, since this ordinance came up on, changing the standing committees and, we have changed the form of government and a lot is different. Anyway, that's my comments, Mr. Mayor. Unless you have any questions for me.
Hi, so I have a report from the library, liaison to the library. Good news, the elevator, they're doing some finishing work and then they'll have inspections, so the fingers crossed it should be up and running soon. Eleni just let me know that they're in a bit of a mess. They were closed half a day. They're also putting new software in at the same time. So they actually were closed half a day to train all the staff at the library on that. So thank you for your patience, but they really want people to join them this Saturday. I know it's the same day as, no, Juneteenth is Sunday. That's good. Okay. This Saturday for our 100th anniversary birthday bash and summer reading kickoff. That will be at the library this Saturday. From animal welfare, we had a meeting the other night. Yappy Hour was such a big success. We're probably going to be doing some more Yappy Hours, a couple of evenings at Boardwalk. And they went through the special events calendar and we have our date approved for dog days in Riverside Park this year because Marine Park will be under construction. So we're starting to make plans for that. I attended Juneteenth at the Vocal last night, which was wonderful. There's such good music and a lot of talent out there. I was glad to be there with some of my colleagues from the council, and my husband came. Pride in the Park, as Ben mentioned, was wonderful. Makes me proud to live in Red Bank, and we even raised a pride flag out here the other day, and it was a nice ceremony. Middle school graduation is tomorrow night, and I'll be attending that too at the park, that Camp Basie Park, which we're going to fix up because I do think it needs to be fixed up. But I'm proud of the middle school students who will be graduating. And the Girl Scouts, thanks so much. You're just adorable. That was the highlight of my meeting too. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Turn your mic off, Laura.
Oh, I got it.
Sorry.
It's okay. Pride in the Park was wonderful. That was an event that myself and one of the former board managers started in 2019. And the idea behind it kind of came out of the fact that I have a kid and Pride is really different for me than when I was younger. I'm bisexual and I've been out since I was 18. And I really love marching with my kid in the parade. But then after that, that's kind of the end of it. And, you know, there's a lot of actual people that work in youth education in town around LGBTQ issues. We actually host the gala here in town for young people. And the idea behind having Pride in the Park was just having a safe, welcoming space for those younger people. It doesn't have to be this glitz glammy thing. It's, you know, have some fun music. Let's hula hoop in the park. Let's have a good time. And I really said to myself from the beginning, I will gauge the success of this event once I hear young people say that the event did something for them. And this is the second year in a row that a student from a local high school spoke and stated that this event was the first Pride I ever went to, referring to a couple years back, and saying it was one of the first times I ever felt safe or accepted, and that the accessibility of the event is what made it possible for them to attend. So to me, that's the greatest feeling on earth, because that means that we're actually making a change here. From the Community Equity Engagement Committee, the 5K is this weekend. The pushchair that was received through a grant to help somebody participate in that race and provide accessibility will be used. The CEEC has also discussed with the library about putting this into their catalog of objects that are available for rent from the library. So this pushchair will actually be available to the public to rent out and use at their leisure. I also just want to comment on the restructuring of this government and why it's so meaningful and important to me as somebody who served up here in the former form of government. And as recently as last January, when bylaws were made by the former governing body here, that made it that 4 people, which is actually a majority of your dais, had to agree on a piece of legislation before putting it onto the agenda. If anybody was paying attention during that time, that's essentially your governing body agreeing that they're going to vote yes on something before your public meeting even takes place. It's abhorrent. To me, these ad hoc committees are extremely important because yes, we have a manager, he is in charge of day-to-day operations. We put immense trust in our CFO and our professionals, and we do not overstep like some former people did with the budget and, you know, do harmful things to our borough. And we do trust our professionals. But when it comes to ordinances and policy, like for example, tonight, the legislation or the ordinance that we propose to put the money into the Parks Trust, I need to talk to somebody before that gets onto the agenda. We need to have a meeting to discuss that. And we need to be able to do that in a working group that is not a quorum. So that is the perfect example to me that me and Laura, who's the county board, the mayor, the CFO, Jim, we met, Greg, we talked about this, and then we brought it here. And then the beauty of it is, if somebody was against it, that's what the vote is for. And the public agenda is the transparency for you to know what's going to be tended to. So I think this is actually the most brilliant process this borough has had. It is the most transparent because We don't have a quorum of people agreeing on something before it goes onto the public agenda. You're finding that out here in public. And that's the way it was supposed to be. No standing committees that are meddling in your borough operations. Before, you had whole council members going in and telling DPW how to run the place. It was absurd, and the meetings were unnecessary. So I'm really, really, really elated to be at this point, and I just want to state that the work that is being done here, although it sounds mundane on an agenda, go look at another municipality's agenda. Go look at what they get done in one meeting. It is unbelievable. We are rocking and rolling, and everybody should be extremely proud. To get Shrewsbury Avenue done, the TAP grant there, and on the same agenda, we're funding Marine Park. And we're also addressing Count Basie. I sat up here for stretches of meetings where not one thing that monumental would happen. So I think Red Bank should be extremely proud of the direction that we're going in and extremely proud of having a transparent government. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say, Don, again, I appreciate you coming with solutions and not just problems. And I know it might not be moving as fast as you like, but as you can see, we're chipping away at it. So please stay involved, and your input is really always welcome. Got to give a shout out to my man Dave Cassie, graduated law school. Yeah. Now he's studying for the bar endlessly. Good work, Dave. I can't wait till you pass it on the third try. It's going to be great. Last week I was over at the high school. I got to present a proclamation to Madeline Sanchez Vera. She was the highest ranking student from Red Bank at Red Bank Regional. She's going to Johns Hopkins on a full ride.
That's awesome.
Really happy to be there, really proud of her. She's an incredible role model. Knows how to advocate for others and more importantly for herself. So congratulations to Madeline. Yeah, otherwise busy week, right? We had Pride. I was at the Red Bank Charter School graduation last night and then popped over to the Juneteenth event at the Basie. Saw Ben and Lauren and Nancy there. Middle school graduation is tomorrow. And of course, Juneteenth is on Sunday. So things are humming here in the borough. Very excited. And that's all I got. Jim.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just wanted to give an update on Marine Park. We have met with the bids obviously went out. We awarded the project to Precise Construction. We've met with the Precise for a pre-construction meeting. I know there's going to be a little bit of I don't want to say a delay. We're just waiting for some of the electrical work to come in for the parking lot as far as the light poles and underground conduit. However, Marine Park, as far as the grading and surveying of the new parking area, will start in July, the very beginning of July. And then we'll probably hop over to the White Street easement, that parking lot on White Street where we have to replace and restore the easement to better housekeeping. And then go back to Marine Park for the greening of the green space once the actual parking lot is created. So that we're not taking away parking before providing parking. So we've kind of talked about that whole dance with this project and making sure that we're taking into account some of the events that are going on in those areas as well. I know there's a car show, there's symphony, there's a couple other things that are going on that we're taking into account. I have put out, and I know that there was a date discrepancy, but that's been corrected with the water rate study informational session, which is going to be on Wednesday, June 19th from 5 to 6 p.m. here in council chambers, also with a Zoom option. That comes out of the April 2023 water rate study that was approved by the governing body at that time. So that's been a long process, and we're coming up to the end of that process where decisions need to be made as far as how we are going to fund the capital infrastructure of the water, sewer, utility, and all the infrastructure that is in the borough under our capital improvement plan for the future, looking at the next 10 years. And also realizing that water rates have not been changed for the previous 8 to 10 years in town. So there's obviously some major implications with that. So we look to cover all that information. We'll have Ingenuity, who's our water professionals on hand, along with CDM Smith, who was subcontracted by Ingenuity to provide this water rate study and actually do a lot of the financials around water infrastructure and how our rates are working. We also have a biking and pedestrian forum scheduled for Tuesday, June 25th from 5 to 6 p.m. again in this room. We'll have the Red Bank Police Department, CME Engineering, our planning department. We'll have Shauna there for community development, myself. We look to have a representative from Violytics, which is our new program that we're going to be using for our road infrastructure on hand to tell us how their program can assist us in discussing our plans, challenges, and improvements to our biking and pedestrian infrastructure as well. And then, so we plan to take half of that time, maybe a little bit less on those presentations. Those are going to be quick snippets because we actually want to make sure we have enough time to hear from the public as well. That's very important for that process. I wanted to give an update on the community engagement coordinator position. We solicited a really good number of applications for that position. We've combed through them, and as of today, we've narrowed that down to a group that we're looking to bring in over the next 2 weeks. So we hope to have a really strong applicant out of that process. Sustainable Jersey has been a process of the borough for some time now. It's a
Laborers.
Yeah, right. It's a laborious cause. It's something that Nancy has really spearheaded among, gathering the information from many different departments. And as a councilwoman, it's been kind of thankless, but thank you for doing it. However, I'm looking to bring that in-house.
Like other towns?
Like other towns.
Wow.
So I'm looking to streamline that, bring that in-house, put it under our community development, assigned to Shauna. Shauna will receive a stipend for doing so. By ordinance,
Good.
I have the ability to provide a stipend up to $6,000. It's not for this full $6,000. Not that that would be out of the question. However, gives us a little bit of room to work with in the next couple of years. So Shauna will be tasked with that. I know we'll be meeting with you in the next couple of weeks to kind of hand things off. Here's where we're at. This is what's needed. I know Nancy's going to be very involved still, but hopefully we can take a lot of the
Still have the
coordination
bragging
in-house.
rights when we go to the league that we do all that work
Still have
on
the
the phone and they had an in-house person. I know. Like,
No, what I was going to add is the advantage of having an in-house coordinator is that when you have projects, because this impacts every aspect of the borough, that will take more than, say, 6 months to do, having that coordinator can really assist in getting those long-term projects done. But what Sustainable Jersey has is a lot of very interesting actions to really help our town be sustainable. But there are a lot of long-term projects that we could possibly take advantage of. So thank you. And yes, I've started the data dump with Shauna and it's overwhelming, but I'll be there the whole time. The first go round, yeah. And just for the record, we go through the heavy task of documenting all the good stuff that we're doing once every 3 years. And this is the year we're doing it. So that would free up Shauna to look at the longer term projects on the off years.
Great. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to work really efficiently. And speaking of working efficiently, having been an assistant administrator in one form of government, in one town, having been a borough administrator, which was what this form of government was, and now being and currently am a town manager, I can say that this is probably the most effective way that government can run. When it's seamless.
Yep.
You empower somebody to make decisions based on your confidence in them. I report to you. I'm beholden to you as a governing body. And I think that it's really important that we have these working groups because they've been really working for me, quite honestly. I'm not a resident of Red Bank. However, I am a municipal executive that knows how to make municipal decisions. But I find it extremely valuable to have those ad hoc committees that you guys have the boots on the ground. You have the pulse of the community. You know what's going on out there, and I need to hear that. So these working groups are working for me. And I hope that I've never seen a more transparent government than what's happening here.
Thank you.
And I've been involved in many of those discussions, right? When we have meetings that don't involve the public, that don't necessarily make it out.
Right.
Those things make it out here.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
you know, quite honestly, it's one of the most effective ways I've seen the government run.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
So far, so good. Yeah.
Where's the wood?
Done?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make such a motion, Mr.
Can I
Mayor.
have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. We will see you on June 27th.
We have an executive session.